For nearly 2 weeks, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remained largely silent. There were no major press briefings, no extended question-and-answer sessions with journalists, no detailed public explanations from the man leading one of the most significant military campaigns in the Middle East in years. During those 13 days, the region was erupting with conflict. Airstrikes pounded targets across Iran as Israeli and American forces intensified their joint military operations. Rockets and missiles continued to fall across northern Israel. At the same time, tensions around the Strait of Hormuz threatened global energy supplies, sending shockwaves through international oil markets. Meanwhile, rumors spread rapidly across social media. Unverified reports claimed Netanyahu had been injured, killed, or forced into hiding somewhere outside Israel. The speculation grew louder as the conflict expanded, and the Prime Minister remained out of sight. Then, on March 12, 2026, the silence finally ended. Speaking to reporters through a virtual press conference, Netanyahu appeared on screen flanked by Israeli flags. His tone was controlled and confident. His message was direct. Israel, he said, was gaining the upper hand in the war. According to Netanyahu, Iran had taken devastating losses. He claimed the country's military infrastructure had been severely damaged and its leadership shaken. He also said Hezbollah had suffered heavy blows and warned that the campaign would continue until Israel achieved its objectives. The press conference served several purposes at once. It was a military update, a political statement, and an attempt to reshape the narrative surrounding the conflict. To understand why this moment mattered, it helps to look back at how the war began. In the early hours of February 28, 2026, Israel and the United States launched a joint military campaign against Iran. The operation was known in Israel as Operation Roaring Lion, while the American side called its role Operation Epic Fury. Officials said the goal was to neutralize Iran's missile capabilities, stop its nuclear ambitions, and weaken the country's military command structure. Within the first wave of attacks, a massive air campaign targeted military installations and leadership sites across Iran. One of the most dramatic moments came when an Israeli strike reportedly killed Iran's longtime supreme leader Ali Khamenei, along with several senior commanders from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The assassination of a leader who had ruled Iran for more than 30 decades stunned the region and created a sudden power vacuum. Soon afterward, Iranian state media announced that his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, had assumed leadership of the Islamic Republic. Iran responded quickly. Missiles and drones were launched toward Israeli targets and U.S. military facilities across the Middle East, including bases in Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. The conflict expanded beyond Israel and Iran almost immediately. Israel also authorized a ground operation in southern Lebanon aimed at pushing Hezbollah forces away from the northern Israeli border. Within days, the war had spread across multiple fronts: air, land, and sea. Throughout this period of escalating violence, Netanyahu's absence from the media became a story in itself. Without official updates from Israeli leadership, misinformation spread rapidly online. Some Iranian media outlets amplified claims that the Israeli Prime Minister had been killed or wounded. However, those rumors proved false. Netanyahu was seen visiting damaged areas in Tel Aviv and later appeared at Israel's port of Ashdod to inspect maritime operations. Still, these brief appearances did little to satisfy journalists who were demanding answers. For a democratic nation fighting a major war, critics argued, 2 weeks without a full press briefing was unusual.
That pressure likely contributed to Thursday's conference. During the event, Netanyahu declared that Israeli and American strikes had dealt severe damage to Iran's military infrastructure. He said key missile programs had been disrupted and senior nuclear scientists had been eliminated. According to him, the balance of power in the region was shifting. When discussing Hezbollah, Netanyahu delivered a blunt warning. He reminded reporters that Hezbollah once possessed more than 150,000 rockets capable of striking deep into Israeli territory. While Israeli operations had weakened that arsenal, he said the threat had not completely disappeared. His message to Lebanon's leadership was unmistakable: disarm Hezbollah, or Israel would take action itself. Israeli jets continued striking targets in Beirut that same day, including areas linked to Hezbollah's financial networks. The conflict has already taken a heavy toll. Thousands of people have been killed and hundreds of thousands displaced in Lebanon. Across the region, governments are scrambling to contain the fallout. Energy markets are also feeling the pressure. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman, handles roughly 1/5 of the world's oil shipments. Any disruption there sends immediate shockwaves through global markets. Even partial interference with shipping traffic has pushed oil prices upward and raised fears of a broader economic crisis. During the press conference, Netanyahu also addressed Iran's new leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. His remarks were openly dismissive. He described him as a figure controlled by Iran's Revolutionary Guard and warned that neither he nor other Iranian leaders should assume they are beyond Israel's reach. At the same time, Iran signaled it had no intention of surrendering. In a written message, the country's new leadership called for continued resistance and hinted that control of the Strait of Hormuz could be used as leverage against Western powers. The military data emerging from the first 2 weeks of fighting paints a complicated picture. U.S. officials say Iranian missile launches have dropped dramatically since the war began, with drone attacks also declining sharply. These figures suggest the strikes have significantly damaged Iran's military capabilities, but they also show that Iran remains capable of retaliation. Missiles continue to strike Israeli territory, and Hezbollah has launched hundreds of rockets toward northern Israel. The war's economic cost is already staggering. In the first week alone, U.S. military operations reportedly cost more than $11 billion. Oil markets have become volatile, and shipping companies are adjusting routes to avoid the most dangerous areas. Banks and corporations across the Gulf region have begun emergency contingency planning. Diplomatically, the United States and the United Kingdom have pushed for additional sanctions against Iran at the UN. Netanyahu also emphasized the close relationship between Israel and Donald Trump, saying the two leaders speak frequently and coordinate strategy. Still, the political situation at home is more complicated. Netanyahu is juggling a war, an upcoming election, and ongoing legal challenges. Polling suggests his political position remains uncertain, even as the conflict dominates national attention. What the press conference ultimately confirmed was simple but significant. Benjamin Netanyahu was alive, firmly in control of Israel's war effort, and determined to continue the campaign. The silence that had fueled weeks of speculation was finally broken, but the larger question remains unanswered. The war has already reshaped the Middle East. Iran's leadership has been shaken, Hezbollah has been weakened but not eliminated, global energy markets remain unstable. What the conflict will ultimately produce, whether it will give way to the sweeping transformation Netanyahu once predicted or settle into a prolonged regional struggle, remains an open question. And as the fighting continues, the world is watching what happens next. Please subscribe and share our videos for more. Your support will encourage us to bring more breaking news to your doorsteps.